Welcome to the Programmatic Digest, a podcast dedicated to reviewing industry trends and latest news in the programmatic and ad tech world. I'm Ellen Parker, your host and Chief Programmatic Sensei of Ellen Parker Consulting, where we offer one-on-one coaching or a 6-month training and development program in programmatic media to fit you and your team's needs. So thank you for joining us. Remember to subscribe right below and enjoy the show. Alrighty, welcome to the Programmatic Digest podcast. Everybody listening, joining via YouTube. And Isabel, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Very excited to be part of your podcast.
I'm super excited to talk to you. It's like almost having like a celebrity on the podcast, okay? But before we get into today's conversation about Canela Media, about your efforts into our industries, about highlighting U.S. Hispanic, CTV with all the good stuff, the less interesting conversation, can we find out a little bit more about who you are, your journey to where you've been, and how you started?
Sure. As you can tell by my heavy accent, and for some reason, it's just here to stay. I was born in Mexico City, but I moved to San Diego, California when I was 15 years old. So I don't know why I still have an accent, but for some reason, it kind of gives me credibility in my industry, I think. So it's not too terrible.
I like it.
So I'm Mexican, but been raised here in the States, went to school here. Now live in Connecticut. In the personal side, I'm a mother of 4, 3 boys, 1 girl. So that keep me very busy. I've been always focused in media and always focused in the Latino market. I'm very passionate about our audience and of media. So I started my career working with the big broadcasters, Univision, Telemundo, did a little bit of time in newspapers, and always hyper focused in digital media. And that allowed me to be very, discover a lot of technologies from the infancy and see them growth and see the opportunities and understand how our Latino audience was acting and reacting to those technologies. One of them was mobile. Mobile advertising has always been very close to my heart. And I realized that was, as mobile started growing, how our audience had leapfrogged desktop adoption and really, really were keen on mobile. So that put me to launching the first company I was part of, which was Adsmobile. I was the second employee in, and I saw that company grow from the bottom up, and it was very rewarding to see the growth. And when you see growth, you become hooked to it. And that was my journey to start my entrepreneurship career. I realized I love starting products. I love seeing the growth. And yeah, full passion on that. So after that, I launched my second company called Mobius Media, which was a data-focused company in mobile, trying to identify Latinos beyond language. And I got acquired by a public traded company called Prisa, ran that company for 3 years.
Wow.
And then I realized it cannot be done there, right? I wanted to start my third baby. I call them babies. Mm-hmm. And that's what brought me to Canela. I saw huge opportunity in the market. I realized, although there was all these headlines out there saying streaming wars, I'm like, hold on a second. Yeah, there might be streaming wars out there, but hey, I'm a Latina. I don't see that streaming wars affecting me. I don't see a lot of options. I don't see high quality content reaching me. There is a segment missing. And then I was like, we need to launch a platform for streaming fully dedicated to the Latino audience, and it has to be free. One of the key things is there's a lot of subscription companies out there, but our audience wants a free product. Credit card penetrations with Latinos is lower than any other group. So they're not always being reached by those subscription-based streaming services. So that was the beginning of Canela. So Canela launched in May 2019 in the middle of the pandemic. And since then, it's been an amazing journey.
Wow. Well, according to eMarketers, I think they said that streaming increased by 200% month over month during the pandemic or something like that. Like people were streaming from an average of, I think it was 2 to 3 hours to what? No, to an average to 2 to 3 hours to 6 hours a day or 8 hours a day or something like that. We had some of the folks from SpotX come on, and that's how I remember when she shared some of this data, I was like, wow, people are streaming. Well, they're home. They're home. You know, we're depending on Wi-Fi. We were talking about it before we started recording, but I think there was this was a very humble introduction. I think Canela Media, according to my research, is an industry leading Latina female owned digital media company, and specifically in CTV, as you said. And so I'm super excited to talk to you. Like I said, I think you're very, very badass, and you're like a unicorn. That's like my way of saying you're amazing. And I cannot wait to talk to you about the conversation today about, you know, the streaming wars. So you started your company because you saw an opportunity to reach a market that wanted to be, you know, wanted to stream, but it was not relevant. Some of the TV information was not really relevant to the Hispanic market you mentioned. So talk to us about how you implemented just that in terms of, obviously you know the market, but for some people that are maybe not in the known of the market, how can they do it correctly? How can they reach this market via working with you, or just right now as a implementation to do? Hey, I'm Ellen Parker. What if I tell you for $75 a month, you get to join a community with other fellow programmatic ninjas, successful ones that are looking to grow, ones that are looking to share what they know and learn from others? Would you be interested? And I get to coach you through your transformation, coach you through the skill set that you need to know in order to get what you want to get. Either is that raise, either is that promotion, either is even like a different job, right? So I'm not a recruiter, y'all. I'm not a recruiter. I'm one of you. I've done what you've been doing for at least 10 years, and I'm here to help you. And in the midst of things, some of my friends from the Programmatic Digest podcast, some of those guest hosts get to come. How many times have you listened to any other podcast and say, dang, I wish they could elaborate on this, or I could ask this? Well, you get a chance to do that in the community. Just for $75 a month, we meet weekly, we grow weekly, we learn weekly, we share authentically, just being ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, try the first call on me, DM me, send me information, head over to the programmaticmeetup.com. I know you'll be able to find it anyway. So see you next Friday.
Great questions. I think that was for the opportunity. One of the main reasons where the opportunity emerged, working very close with ad agencies and clients. In the media space, everybody was asking, can we do video in long form? Can we do advertising? Can we run pre-roll, mid-roll? And the answer for the longest time, there was like, there's not such thing. Like, there's not inventory. I can find you inventory in short form video, maybe run something in websites. But if you're looking for long form of advertising of video, there's not inventory there. There's nobody providing that. And after years of saying that, I'm like, hold on a second. How can there no be long form for Latinos? You cannot tell me Latinos are not watching TV. You cannot tell me Latinos are not streaming. There's a problem here. So based on part of that insight, help us realize, okay, we know Latinos are early adopters of technology. We know they're streaming a higher percentage than many other groups, that they have their mobile phones, they have smart TVs. So we know we can get to them. So now let's look at what's available in the market, what options they have. So historically, there's been two major players in broadcast. You have your Univision, Telemundo. What kind of programming are they offering that? Well, it tends to be, yes, it's in Spanish, but it skews very Mexican American content. And we're like, okay, there's something missing here too. Is a lot of advertisers, because they're being taught to believe this way, is you create an ad in Spanish and you focus on the Mexican American audience and you can clean your hands, or you just utilize the same ad and just dub it to Spanish, and that's it. But the Latino community is so much more complex with that. And with that mentality, you cannot think everybody's Mexican American. Although I am Mexican American, right? 60% of the population, Latino population today, is Mexican American. 40% are not. And it depends on the areas of the country that you're focused. Let's say if you're thinking New York City, you're going to see a very heavy Puerto Rican population.
Yeah.
So if you go with that mentality, you're missing a big percentage, you're isolating a big percentage of the Latino population. And so with that, we're like, okay, they're being neglected, other segments of the Latino community, that are actually growing faster rate than the Mexican Americans. So we know Venezuelan immigration, we know Puerto Ricans are growing very quickly. So these segments are growing faster than Mexican American. We need to provide them programming that reflects their needs. So with that, we went ahead and say, let's not only focus on Mexican Americans, let's not ignore them, of course, but let's go all over Latin America and create one of the largest libraries of Spanish content that has content from Argentina, Colombia, Puerto Rico. So when people come to a platform, you're like, wow, really? I never seen Dominican baseball available on a platform because yes, I love baseball, but I cannot find it anywhere. Or I'm from El Salvador. I never can see my soccer games from El Salvador.
Oh, wow.
So with that mentality, we created a huge library. So now when brands work with us, we're able to say, okay, who you're trying to reach or who you should be reaching, how you should speak to them to really be attractive, because advertising is about persuasion. So if you're trying to use the same message for everybody, how persuasive can you be? So what we put a lot of emphasis is working very well with brands, understanding which subsegments of the Latino community are going to be the best for their specific product. And with that, we put our team that is very diverse. We have Puerto Ricans, Brazilians, and then they're able to say, look, this is the way you should speak to them. We should think about this tactic. We should be surrounded by this content. So no plan working with us look the same, but it's really specific to that. It's advertising.
I think it's as it should, especially now. I mean, we talked about the pandemic. The pandemic showed us how we can no longer just throw something and throw some brand awareness and try to figure out who's going to catch it. You know, this is not this is not hope marketing that we're doing. We have technology to allow us to be so relevant. So why not use it? But at the same time, like you said, you have a team that really represent the audience that you are targeting. And that says a lot about your company and the success of your company. And so because I'm very data driven, can you share maybe, I don't know if case study is the proper word, but maybe a case where you had a brand, you don't have to share the brand unless you want to, but where you had a brand reach out or an advertiser reach out for a specific targeting opportunity. And then with your theme, they were able to accomplish 6x of their return of ad spend, or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we have amazing advertisers. So, and some of them I'm very proud of the campaigns they're doing because they're unique. They're not just throwing something out there and seeing if it gets the right audience. One of those advertisers that has been fantastic working with is Target.
Nice.
Target has been one of those clients that really thinks in how to make a message compelling. And they came to us very early on and said, look, we want to reach Latinos in an authentic way. We want to add value. We not only want to throw our message saying, come and buy our product, but we want to also provide something back to them. So we work very closely with them and their agency. And we came together with a plan that we realized where is a void in the market and where can Target add that value. And one of them was the representation in the screen. There's very few representation. Latinos overall are underrepresented in the big screen. But then if you look at subsegments, one of them is Afro-Latinas. Afro-Latinas is very hard to find content where you see an Afro-Latina being the lead person. And with that, is like, Target's like, that's incredible. Here's an opportunity. So we found this amazing inspirational series that is called La Mamá del Diez, where is the story of La Mamá del Diez, mom of number 10.
Okay.
So La Mamá del Diez is an inspirational story of an Afro-Latina who gives everything to his child to ensure he can follow his passion, which is becoming a professional soccer player.
Nice. Okay.
So through her sacrifice and through this inspirational story, he gets him to be this amazing professional soccer player. So Target brought, for the first time ever in the United States, as this series was top series in Colombia, never been seen here, sponsored the series, paid for the content, and brought it to the audience. And it really was eye-opening because, again, coming to the mentality that usually the content we saw was Mexican-American, it was very different to bring an Afro-Latina to the screen and make it the main series, right, for a platform. It became the most viewed series in Canela. It was an absolutely hit. And for what it meant for Target is their brand was everywhere, saying, with this amazing, compelling story, we are. Sorry, do you?
No, I was saying like they're supporting something that is not, popular or widely seen where it should be. So that's awesome. That's
So
really cool.
There's other, I mean, just how we're thinking with these brands. The other thing is like, let's think about a mom, right? A Latina mom. They come here. One of the things with their huge movement of retroculturation, which means we want our kids to be more Latino. We want our kids to speak Spanish. When before it's like you try to stimulate, you don't want anyone, your kids to know Spanish. You want just them to blend in. Now there is like, hey, I'm proud to be Latina. I want my kids to be more Latinized. I want them to learn their language. So with that, we're like, how do we support those moms that are going through that journey to ensure their kids speak Spanish? And we're like, let's look at the most viewed series out there for kids. And one of them is Ryan's World, amazing influencer out there for kids. And it's seen by all the kids. And we're like, why did we bring Ryan's World for the first time in Spanish?
Wow. Okay.
So Target's like, we love that. Let's do it. So we dubbed the series of Ryan's World to come exclusively to Canela in Spanish to support those moms in that journey, ensuring their kids are enticed to learn Spanish because now their favorite character, Isabel, in Spanish, and the mom is going to tell him, you want to see Ryan's World? You see it in Spanish. So
yeah. No, I can relate. I'm a mom of a toddler. Her name is Jade. My first language is French because I'm originally from Senegal and we speak French. So it was extremely important to me that she speaks French and she understands and speaks French right now. But she's been speaking more Franglish. So she'd say the word dog, but then she'll make the woof sound in French, and in French is whoa whoa. So she'll be like dog whoa whoa. Or like she'll combine the word water and eau, and then she'll say wow. And so she's been like mixing some words, but it's been very challenging to find French content. And I had to do some serious research because the Peppa Pig, there's a lot of like shows that are translated. And not to talk about Peppa Pig, but those shows I'm not a big fan of the content just yet, at least for her age. And so there's only a handful of shows, and now she's obsessed with Elmo. But anyway, so I understand what, and I appreciate it, even though I don't speak Spanish. I appreciate it because I'm a mom and I can relate. And because my parents, they moved from from Cape Verde. So originally I'm from Cape Verde, it's Portuguese island, it's West Africa, and they speak Creole Portuguese. And so my grandparents moved from Cape Verde to Senegal and then had my parents there. But because that generation wanted to like assimilate, like you said, they didn't teach us, the kid, the language the way it should be. So now I'm telling my mom, you only spoke, X amount of Creole, and I'm not speaking it very well when I'm Cape Verdean. So now this language is dying with me in my kids' generation. So how can we do it? And there's almost no content for Creole. So I have to get even more creative when it comes to that. But I appreciate that you saw a problem and you were not afraid to jump on it and provide a solution. And I appreciate that. Thank you so much for doing this. I don't know how many times you've received a thank you, but thank you for doing this for the community.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
So let's talk about projection before we talk about our closing segments. I'd love to hear from you. Projection for streaming this year. Where do you think we're going with streaming in 2020 and 2021? I mean, percentage in streaming shut up, right? People were spending more time at the house. Not everybody were able to work virtually like the programmatic media world. So what are your projections? Do you think we're going to continue seeing those numbers rise up, or are we about to level up a little bit, even though it's pretty high? Yeah, I feel like it will still be safe. What is your take for 2022? What can we pull out of you?
I think it's too early to level up yet. I think it's
Okay.
still gonna go in this super high hyper growth. So, and I think also, I mean, I'm hyper focused in Latino, but there's still a lot of opportunity in niche content, niche audiences. And that's the beauty with streaming. Streaming is able to provide those audiences very specific content. So if you're a yoga fanatic, now you can find content specific to you. If you're a Spanish prefer, you're gonna find the content in Spanish. So as more content comes available and it's reaching audiences in really big passion points for them, that viewership is not slowing down. We're very early on yet, and I think there's still a lot of growth coming our way. So,
Wow, that's wow.
So I think,
and would you not say that with cookie deprecation happening, would you not say that would it affect you? Because I'm assuming, so I think you have 100 plus sites that you own?
there's two sides of our business. We have our streaming services where we have Canela TV and Canela Music, which is a music platform. And then we represent the ad inventory exclusively of 180 websites. Where there are international websites that might not have Salesforce here in the US. So what we provide for them, we help monetize their programmatic inventory, and we also help with direct sales.
Gotcha. So how have you been bracing, if that's the proper word, but how have you been preparing your publishers for the deprecation of cookies? Or again, is it even relevant for you because you already have ownership over that data? How are you preparing for third-party cookies going away?
I think we're in a really good position because of that ownership of data. And we're already hyper focused in very specific audience segments. So for example, one of our largest publishers called Marca.com. And Marca is all in Spanish, reaching just Latinos in the US, and it's all about sports.
Okay.
So you already are reaching a very specific subsegment, even if you were not to lay your data. If you just want to reach Latinos, you're reaching Latinos in that website, and you're reaching a specific sports fanatic. So, and then all the ownership of the first party that they have. So I think those publishers, because they're very specific in the content they provide and the audiences they serve, they have a leg up to be able to still provide very specific segments for advertising.
Gotcha. Okay. So before we go into our closing segment, if somebody had to stop the podcast right now, what are 3 things you want them to remember about either Canela Media or about how to reach US Hispanic audiences or multicultural audiences in the right way? What are 3 things you can share?
One size does not fit all. We have to remember we cannot put all Latinos in one bucket. So how you segment your segments, the same thing, you have to be very strategic how you reach those audiences. Authenticity is key. Authenticity, Latinos can see through non-authentic campaigns. So be authentic. And if you want to win, you have to be able to push boundaries. So sometimes not going through the cookie cutter approach, but willing to provide a service to the audience, serve that audience. So see where there is opportunities, because there's so many opportunities right now how to serve better this consumer. So own those experiences, own those opportunities, and be authentic. And I think with those, if you're able to really think that way, there's a huge opportunity to make your brand stand out. And then also the rewards are huge because you're going after a market right now that is not as bombarded as the general market. So there's huge opportunities to win. So not everybody's bombarding that. So if you're authentic and you have a right message, you're going to win a very loyal audience.
I think that's a great way to end. And I wanna define the word authentic, because I think people just use it to use it because it's cute and sexy. But being authentic is like undisputed origins, being truly genuine. And I'm pulling this definition from Oxford Language, y'all. So it has to be for real, for real. Like it has to be real, true, like that's all it is. And so sometimes you just cannot DIY this service. That means you cannot have somebody internally, because that person knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that's Colombian or Mexican, try to DIY the strategy. This is why we have Canela Media for you to, first of all, is just going to take off some of the DIYers, but also to have a trusted source of authenticity to implement in your strategy. It's you can learn new skill set, of course. I'm not saying that somebody that's non-Latina or non-Latino couldn't do it. But sometimes, especially in our day and age, you cannot afford to make a mistake reaching certain audiences the wrong way. There's several examples you can Google out there. I don't even have to mention any. So partnering strategically, making that investment will save you time, will increase your revenue. And like you said, you'll gain a little bit more because you've done it right. So thank you so much for highlighting this, because I don't think we talk about this very often. And so in our closing segment, I like to ask a couple questions. So can you share, I mean, you just dropped a lot of fun facts, but can you share a fun fact about yourself that you haven't shared yet?
Fun fact. Oh my, I don't want to sound non-fun. So let me think very good of a fun fact. Mm.
You said you founded quite a few quite a few successful business. Can you just share what did it take for you to do that from a general perspective? Because I'm sure there's a lot of blood, sweat, tears, laugh that got into it. But it's very rewarding and refreshing to talk to somebody like you, because you've done it really well over and over and over again. And you just didn't do it because you had to, or because whatever. You did it because you saw something and then you went for it. So talk to us about maybe your biggest motivation. Like, what would be a why? Why did you do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you have to be a little crazy, I do have to say that, because
Okay.
not anyone decides to jump. And when we say we just go a little, you have to have a level of craziness on you. And I think we do have is a balance, right? Craziness and enough knowledge on what you're doing to ensure that you have a good ending to your thing. But yeah, I think it's just you just have to I think for us I could not afford to make a mistake.
Wow.
And it sounds like, and I know a lot of people, I put everything on the line.
Mm.
So when I launched Canela, I knew in my gut, I knew with the research that there was a huge opportunity, and I was willing to risk everything. And when I mean everything, everything. So talk about a stressful situation, but knowing that you have put everything in a line to make something happen, you're going to ensure that it is successful. So I think entrepreneurship is not for everybody. You have to know what you want very clearly. You have to be willing to put everything on the line. And then if you're certain your idea is right on point, you just have to go for it. Wow. And if you make a mistake, you fall and then you go up again. It does not mean you're going to make another mistake. You better learn from that mistake.
You better preach. Yes, that's great. I don't know how else we could end this podcast, because it's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. I don't think we hear this enough in our industry. Like, you just got to go with it, and your mistake does not define who you are. It just meant you tried. You get up and you keep going and you aim higher this time. Okay. And then I think it's a good reminder that it's okay to do certain mistake, even if your boss is telling you shouldn't have done it. Right. It's okay. It's like, you just have to assume, you just have to implement to, how am I not going to do it anymore? And then keep going. And actually I wanted to ask you, so I'm launching a course. It's called the Reach and Frequency course. And, I had a few people from Argentina and Venezuela and even Colombia reach out to me and say, hey, we love your content. Do you have a course? So that's when I started talking about the course, because a lot of people ask about it. But I don't speak Spanish, and I'm not going to guess it, and I'm not going to DIY it. So I hired a consultant that is in Venezuela to help me translate the course. Can you give me advice about I want to make sure that to do this because I am not from there, obviously. So I'm putting my sole trust into this person, which I trust 110%. So what would you be, what is like a couple of advice you can give me on this project?
I think if you find the right person to help you, right, and translate it, I think a lot of the platforms, when you're talking about rich frequency terms for digital, a lot of the countries are very, as we're all working in the same platforms, digital platforms in general. If a lot of the terms are well known across countries, so you're like frequency is universal. Like the concepts, you're not. It's not a different concept because you're in a different part of the world. Yeah. Everybody gets running digital media full on the same concept, so you should be fine there. I think it's just having a good person that can translate correctly, but it's not only translating that understands the industry, because if you just do a word to another word, it might not make sense in the other language. So
yeah, okay, cool. That reassures me because she does work 1000% in the programmatic media industry. It has like 6 years, 7 years. And like I said, I was really careful because I wanted to do it right. So this whole interview reassured me that, okay, you're doing the right thing. Like you're not gonna, you have to hire somebody that knows more than you. And that also goes to anybody that's listening. Sometimes you just have to hire some help to get to where you want to get. But thank you so much for dropping by, Isabel. This was so amazing. If anybody wants to reach out to you, how can they do that?
I'm always in LinkedIn, so you can just look for me in LinkedIn. And then also you can go to our company's website, canelamedia.com, and you'll find there how to contact us.
Perfect. And all of Isabel's information would be in the show notes, in the description, and we'll make sure to add, to tag her on all of the social media posts. So thank you so much for dropping by. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.